To talk about importing skill challenges. This is an extremely difficult thing to do. The problem with skill challenges across adventures, they have different formats. And I really need them to stick to a consistent format in order to extract the information cleanly. And skill challenges just simply don't do that. Different adventures write them in different ways. For example, some at the end, you know how it has the success block and the failure block? They call them victory and defeat. Now that's a relatively simple problem to overcome, but there are other ones where they use different punctuation and stuff like that. So I'm going back to the original. Keep on the Shadowfell, the skill challenge near the end, this closing the portal one. Just go back to basics and stick to a standard that I was hoping they would stick to in writing out the skill challenges, Wizards of the Coast and other writers of adventures. But what can you do? So I'll just do this one, and it will take a few curveballs here and there with other formats, but most of the time it's really just doing its best. And if it fails, then you can use add skill track manually to add your skill tracks. So what you want to do is start with complexity, because it needs this, requires it successes before three failures. The successes and failures count, and go all the way down to the end of the failure block. So copy that, and let's actually put it into the notes tab here. And move that. Okay, we can't do that right now, but what we want to do is edit here to take out things that we don't want our players to see. For example, we'll save this part here from the Arcana check. We'll save that for the failure text for Arcana. And I believe it's the same text for the failure religion. So we'll take that out too. Even if it's not, we'll just use the same text. It's no big deal. We're just working by example here. So we'll assume the rest of this stuff is okay. Say okay. Now, before you actually hit import here, you want to get your graphic that you're going to want to change the skill challenge to. Given the theme of this skill challenge, the thing in the portal, which is a horrible black void of a thing with lots of tentacles and who knows what it looks like, I have chosen this Chaos Beast because that has tentacles too and it's wrapping around this guy. So good enough, close enough. So we'll do that, and you can put a handout on there too if you want to. But we'll run the import now, and we'll give it a name, starting with a capital. And this is our target. We want to polymorph the skill challenge itself, and we want to look for that Chaos Beast. Say okay. We don't need the Chaos Beast anymore, so we will say yes to this delete. And the importer starts. So it looks for the primary skills. It thinks that these three that it found are the primary skills. If they're not, then uncheck one or two or whichever are not, and then check the other ones that are, but those are actually correct. We'll say okay. Now it goes through and it is going to do the skill tracks. So 2 entries, 1 success, 1 failure. You could probably just okay through this. Maximum successes allowed for Arcana, 4. I believe that is correct. Again, double check the text to make sure it is. And it finds the first success DC. And yeah, that looks good. We'll say okay there. And here is the failure DC. Remember we cut out that section of text on the notes tab to denote the failure text? Let's paste that in now. And Arcana 1, yeah, up to 16 will be considered a failure, and you will get that text. Say okay. Yes, it is a failure. Let's make sure. A failed check. Yeah, we just actually answered that question, didn't we? Doing so, okay, counts as 1 success. Yep, this looks good. Yeah, we will assume that the primary skills are failures. You will get a failure if you get below the success DC. So heal is next. And we're allowed 2 successes for heal. And yep, that's the success DC, and we'll just leave the default text for the failure. You're not able to effectively apply the skill. Yes, it does count as a failure. And finally, religion is the last primary, and we can get 4 successes. That's the correct religion DC. Okay. And again, I think we'll paste in that because it has the same failure text as Arcana for religion. Let's just double check that. Yep, there's an attack that goes on for a failure, and that's the specs that is at the end there. Count as a failure. Yes. Endurance. Now, this is the secondary skill. Say okay. Okay. Default failure text. Notice how for the secondary it didn't ask if it counts as a failure, the DC1, because it assumes all secondaries don't count as failures or successes, so it doesn't even ask us. So once again, that was endurance. And if we go to the beginning here, notice how it doesn't say anything at the beginning for the failure track and for the success track. But if we go to Arcana, look at that. It has failure for the DC1 track at the beginning and success for the high DC. So that's how it encodes the skill challenge and keys off that to award successes and failures to the skill challenge token itself. And that is indeed worth 750 XP. And that looks all good, so we'll say okay. And we are given the skill tracks, and that looks good. Notice how it has failure and success in front of the primaries, and again, for endurance, it does not. So it doesn't enter into that. Basically, a skill challenge is treated as a monster. So the idea behind the skill challenge, if you look at the stats sheet that pops up, see how it has 8 hit points on the second line there? You can do damage to a skill challenge by throwing a success at it. And one success does 1 point of damage. So that'll go down to 7 if we get a success against the portal. And action points denotes the number of failures you're allowed. So if you hit this failure award, then that will decrement the action points by 1. So that's how that works. Basically, skill challenges. It's treated as a monster, so you can bloody it and you can kill it. It uses the monster approach, that mechanic, to manage your progress on the skill challenge. So that's how it's configured. And also notice the label. Primaries equals Arcana, Heal, Religion. Secondaries equals Endurance. So you can tell your players, yeah, hover over that skill challenge token, assuming they can see it. So we gotta make it visible to players, of course, when they're ready to start working against it. And also, very, very important, as we found out before, click Own to make sure that you own that token. Otherwise, Send Macro is not going to know how to deal with it. It won't bother connecting to the success awards and revokes and all that stuff. So we're about ready to go with this. You can tell your players to OSP it, or you can do this mass skill check lock as we've done before. And the enemies of this monster is Vanny, of course. So, okay, so that doesn't look like it worked. That's fine. We'll look at that later. But what we can do is we can OSP this. And on Vanny's skill check, right there, he can run that. And we have some options. Perception, Arcana, Heal, Religion, Endurance. So how about he does an Arcana check? Say okay. And we know that's not good enough. And apply versus track, Arcana. And unfortunately, we got a failure award. Now, if we hover over, action points have not been decremented. They're still at 3. We do get the result back in our little frame here. And unfortunately, we have to click this. See how it does that? It does -1 to action points. We hover over. The failure has been recorded in the action points property. So let's be a little more optimistic here. And we'll go to, let's make sure that we're, okay, yeah, we're on Vanny. And we did get like this macro props error, so it's having a bit of trouble resolving that skill check quick button. I might take a look at that, but let's see if this skill check works okay. Let's try heal this time. And that looks pretty good, but that won't make it because I believe that was 15. Let's do a high number, see what happens. And we'll apply that to the heal track on the token that we encoded. We get a success. Look at that. And we get the blue link. Click here to run success award. Now, again, this will be done automatically when you're in a server situation, when you have players connected to your server. It will do this automatically. You don't have to actually click this link. There you go. Now watch this. We hover over, and it has recorded the success. See how the hit points are now down to 7? So we're making progress with the skill challenge. So now let's do a heal again, because if we go to adjust settings, no, we don't want to reset. That would be bad. We go down, and we should see this heal check going down. Now, we got a success in heal. Perception has high scores. Okay, now that actually did it for perception. So that was actually a mistake on our part. It is looking at the highest ones. So let's do that again. Cancel. See, it says perception check. So we don't want to do that because perception is not an option here. Again, we can hover over and see the primaries. So what we want to do, OSP, go to Vanny's common free no, go skill check, say okay, and this time heal without any perception. My heal check versus portal. So it's going on the portal. So let's say it's like 18 or something crazy like that. Say okay. Apply versus track heal. And we get a success. Skill track info found on portal. I made a heal check and got an 18, and there's the corresponding success. So we'll click that to get another success award. Hover over. It's down to 6 now. So yeah, we're doing good with respect to the skill challenge. So let's see now. We can go back to adjust settings. No. Look at that. Remember, we were allowed 2 successes in heal. It's been reduced. What happens if we have another success in heal? Let's test that mechanism. Then we'll go skill check. Heal. Okay. And get above 15. Say okay against the heal track. And there we go. We got another success. And see this up here? We get a skill send macro is sending to the portal token a skill closing macro to run. So the portal token says, okay, I'll do that. And it says, sorry, heal is no longer an option for this skill challenge. Let's hover over. Look at that. See primaries, the label there? Heal is gone. So we can no longer do a heal check. So that's not going to work, actually. So that's how it goes. So let's actually intentionally fail to because this might take a while. So we're only allowed one more failure. So we can do that, and we can say skill check on portal. It should only be displaying the primaries. It must have gotten the actual list must have gotten deleted from the portal somehow. So I'll take a look at that for future service releases, but it'll still work. We still know what we have to do. So let's try a religion check. We know that failure will be fatal, and that will do it. Yeah, say okay against religion. And here's the failure award. Record that. Let's close this. And, oh, actually, has been registered. Yeah, we do have one more failure to go. So let's do it again. Another religion check. Religion. Okay. That'll certainly fail. Run the... Okay. Now that was unfortunately our last failure allowance. So it says, sorry, you have failed the portal skill challenge. It detected that there are no more action points, and it ran this. So if we had actually gone to successes and gone all the way down, we would have killed the skill challenge, and it would have been counted as a win for us with respect to handing out experience points. So that is how skill challenges work in the framework. Again, a few rough edges, I'll work with it some more and make it a little easier, but this worked. It did track all the successes and failures. You can also do group checks and group stop. Like you can say group check start and then have all your players do checks against the token and then say stop, and then it will evaluate that. And you can also manually skill close and open and manually award successes and revoke if it's not quite working correctly with respect, or there are some mitigating circumstances. It's not a standard skill challenge. There are plenty of those, trust me, when we come across them in our playing. So, and you can, manage it that way manually. If, like, say you need, I don't know, 2 successes in Arcana for 1 actual success in the skill challenge, like beat the DC twice, for example. You can't really use the automatic way of doing it that we've done here. So that's one aspect. And again, if it missed a skill, then you can click add skill track, or you can build an entire skill challenge by manually adding skill tracks instead of doing the importer. That'll work too. As long as they get encoded on there and you do that somehow, then it should be okay. If not, as always, go to the reporting problems section of the website and make a post for me to take a look at what you're doing. And those are skill challenges in the Macro Police box. Thanks for watching.